Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind, digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. We actually just dropped a thought piece this past Sunday, so be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, for those of you who are looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available on 10 different podcast platforms for your listening leisure, and we've provided you access to the links in the description down below. As is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And this week we're talking about mental wellness. Now, this is part 2 on our series on self-sacrifice and why I think self-sacrifice is a toxic trait, especially the way that it's pushed and is manipulated and maneuvered in our current setting. But of course, everything is contextualized. I think that when it comes to self-sacrifice, when there are no boundaries, when there are no limits and guardrails put on self-sacrifice, it can really be something that can be to our detriment and to the detriment of our mental wellness as a whole. So what I've done is I've deconstructed my arguments for why self-sacrifice can be very toxic, but in a part 1 and part 2 series. So my part 1, I'll provide access to the link somewhere here on the screen, is really talking about self-sacrifice relationally, how it translates in a relationship, either in a personal or professional setting. And this part 2 is really going to be talking about self-sacrifice communally. So in this video, I'm going to talk about sacrifice and the top 4 ways that self-sacrifice is expected and how it manifests communally. So how our communities, or the communities that we are currently partaking in or involved in, can demand self-sacrifice from us in a way that really does not serve us and can be to our detriment and can really erode on our mental wellness. So without further ado, let's jump into the top 4 right now. So the first one is kind of a given, and I think that it overlaps with relational just a little bit, but it's this idea that the individual self, that who I am, my personal needs, must always be deprioritized for the collective. So I always put my needs last when I think about what the collective needs. And I think that this is very toxic. I think that if everyone does this, then we have a fairly unhealthy society where everyone is deprioritizing themselves, thinking that they're doing it for the betterment of everyone else, when in reality it's the other way around, right? Like, if you want to support your collective, then you put your needs first. And in putting your needs first, you're in a better position mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically to be a great support and an anchor point for your collective, whether that is your family, whether that is like the overarching society that you partake in, but the idea that self-sacrifice is the way that you contribute to your societies as a whole, I think is very backwards. It creates a very unhealthy society where everyone's needs are not personally met. So everyone feels fairly embittered or resentful, or maybe even just they feel like obligated to satisfy the collective by deprioritizing themselves, thereby, eroding their sense of mental well-being, eroding their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health, but thinking that they're doing it for a greater cause than they are. And I think that that is absolutely a very toxic, very twisted message that we need to deconstruct, and one that we shouldn't continue forward. I mean, I'm not going to teach that to the children I hope to have one day. I'm going to let them know, like, if you want to support your collective in a great and meaningful way, you got to learn how to put your needs first and how to create balance between how you support yourself and how you support your society. I think that's a healthier way of going about it than expecting that you've always deprioritized yourself for the collective. I think that there's something just very twisted and very toxic about that idea. And so my second point is that any expectation of reciprocity is taboo. So even speaking to an expectation of reciprocity is taboo. And I think that that is a signal of a toxic relationship. I think that it should be understood without even words spoken, that if I'm putting energy into a relationship, a community, that I'm expecting energy back, and expecting energy back shouldn't be taboo. It shouldn't be seen as selfish or as shameful or as like me not being raised properly. I think that the only way things function in a healthy way is if we expect a reciprocal exchange, an energy exchange, where we get some of what we're putting in, or we're getting like a balance, like a one-to-one relationship of, what we're putting in, we're getting it back. And I think that the idea that communities just take from you and you just expect to give to them without expecting anything in return, I think that that is a recipe for disaster. And I think that that is a big reason why people's mental wellness is just a cause for concern, regardless of what society you are part of. Building conversation around reciprocity, I think first and foremost, I think that if it gets to the point where you have to talk about reciprocity and you feel uncomfortable talking about reciprocity, that's a signal for you to think about whether or not this is a community you want to participate in to begin with. But I think that reciprocity should be a given, right? I don't think reciprocity should be taboo. And anyone who enters a relationship expecting to get more than what they put into it is someone who's looking to take advantage and to be manipulative and to be opportunistic. And we need to stop giving these people like clear opportunities to take advantage of those of us who want to put energy into communities and put our energy into others, but recognize that, we can't continuously give when we're on empty. Who recognize that, like, for this to be something that's sustainable for a long term, then there needs to be a certain reciprocal exchange. So we want to align ourselves to communities and to people who anticipate that they're going to put in what they get out of the communities that they engage in. And I think that that's very important. And any message that speaks otherwise, I think, is a message that we need to deconstruct, and we need to recognize that it's a toxic message altogether. And my third point of contention with self-sacrifice and how it translates for the community is like this idea of self-injury or self-harm being celebrated when you're doing it for the greater good. And I think that this is just so twisted, and I think it's just so toxic that we celebrate people who have completely deprioritized themselves and completely done away with any concept of self-preservation for the community, and then we celebrate that. And I know that this has very many layers to it, and for those of us who are fairly nationalistic and we celebrate our fallen heroes, and this isn't me knocking our fallen heroes, but I do think that we really need to take a couple of steps back and think about the ways that we hold people to the expectation that they injure or that they put themselves in harm's way for the community. If someone wants to put that pressure on themselves, I think that's for them to sort of sort through for themselves, but it's completely inappropriate, and I think it's completely off base for our community to put the expectation on any person that they put themselves in harm's way for the sake of that community. And I think that that is one of the messages that I've heard in different communal groups, whether those communities are built on extracurriculars, whether they're built on, more nationalistic activities, whether they're religious, whether they're spiritual, whatever the case might be, whether they're sports. If the expectation is that you put yourself in harm's way, that's what your community puts on your shoulders for you to be celebrated. I think that we need to all think 3 times about why we want to engage in communities that think that that's okay. As a human, like a fundamental human quality is self-preservation. And there's nothing selfish about self-preservation. All of us are here to fulfill our life's purpose, to pursue meaning, and not to put ourselves in harm's way for the sake of the greater good. I mean, that's social conditioning that we really need to think twice about. And we need to think to ourselves, like, how much of this external pressure do we take on and internalize, and how much of this external pressure is actually healthy for us, and is it healthy for us at all? I mean, like, again, like, self-sacrifice is a personal choice, but never allow yourself to feel pressured or bullied to put yourself in harm's way for the greater good of the community. I think that that's completely off base and inappropriate of an expectation to put on any person. And I personally would dismiss that expectation right out of the gate. Like, I'm not that person. I believe in self-preservation. I am the one who governs and who drives the choices that I make by way of my own sense of self-preservation. And I don't feel like it is ever appropriate for someone to put the pressure on me to self-sacrifice or put myself in harm's way for the greater good of the community. That is not a choice I would ever make willingly, ever, ever make willingly. And so my last point, as it relates to my points of contention when it comes to communal self-sacrifice, is the proverbial pat on the back. I have such a bone to pick with the pat on the back. I mean, how much is it really worth, really? This external validation when you've shaved years off your life, like what you've done, like the blood, sweat, and tears you've put into a specific activity, and then you get the pat on the back. I mean, no. For me, the pat on the back will never be worth my blood, sweat, and tears, which is why if I put my energy into something, it's because I personally see a value or a benefit in that thing. I personally want to put my energy into the impact that I hope that it creates, right? Like, it needs to be something where I feel personal alignment and attunement to, because I will never put so much value in the proverbial pat on the back. I think external validation is a farce. I think the fact that a lot of us are driven by external validation, we recognize that it's empty, that it's shallow, that it's quick to shift and change. So why do we value it so much? Like, what is the point of it? I think internal motivation is so much stronger of a motivator, of an incentive, than external validation. And I think that we all need to start to see the pat on the back for what it is. It's an ego trip for the person patting you on the back, right? Like, it's like they're so significant that their pat on the back is worth the years that you shaved off your life, essentially. And I think that that's just not true. I don't think it's ever true that a pat on the back is worth any amount of sacrifice that you've placed on yourself to accomplish a deed or accomplish a task or accomplish whatever it is that you put your energy into. And I think if ever you're going to put your energy into something and it's going to come at a cost to yourself, where you're putting your energy into something and there is a certain degree of self-sacrifice in it, do it for its own intrinsic reward. Never put so much of yourself into something where you recognize that you're probably shaving years off your life and you're doing it because you're seeking out external validation. I'm telling you, like, it never balances out. Like, I think we should all devalue external validation, devalue the proverbial pat on the back. Stop putting those people on a pedestal and start doing things for the intrinsic rewards that they carry. In any case, those are my 4 biggest points of contention when it comes to self-sacrifice and how it translates communally. And I hope that it gives you some food for thought, like a different perspective to ponder. And before I leave you, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that for the foreseeable future, we will be going live twice a month, every month on our Facebook page. We will be facilitating live sessions focused largely on self-mastery to foster life skills and critical thinking, to derive more meaning and fulfillment out of life. And if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I suggest you purchase one of our package plans. And with our package plans, you have unlimited access to our live events, plus access to the webinars and workshops that we offer over and above those live events. And I've given you some links to peruse, some things to research, and I definitely hope that we see you again soon. We'll talk to you later.
I just feel like